Fellowship podcast. This is our version of what we're calling What's Happening at Glory. And what we're doing is just having some different folks on for these episodes and going to talk about different ministries within the church and just another way of getting information out to all of you. And so we want to say welcome to our Glory family, and even if you are not a person that does not attend Glory Fellowship, we welcome you to this, and hope that what we do here is meaningful and impactful to you, and that you glean something from it. But today we have Philip Williams, who is our youth pastor here at Glory, and Philip, I was thinking about this the other day. Coming up in June will be our 4-year anniversary.
We'll be completing 4 years.
Yeah, so pretty cool thing that Philip and I go back a ways and have known each other for a while and been friends and for a long time. And we began full-time ministry here at Glory in the same month. We were hired in the same month, and so this coming June will be 4 years for us in full-time. I was here part-time prior to that, and so overall, I'm working on my 11th year as the worship pastor and families pastor here. But so it's a pretty cool thing for us being together and doing this, and it's been really cool. In 4 years, we kind of talk about it a lot that the job has changed tremendously.
The job has changed, the church has changed, the youth group has changed. It's a completely different church and a completely different experience than it was when we first got rolling here.
Yeah, it definitely is. When Philip was first hired, we were actually finishing the upstairs youth room. It was an unfinished part of the building, and so we were working on that and getting that together to make the youth worship space and kitchen and all. And
yeah, a contractor was not part of the job description, but here we are.
Yeah, right. So we were actually up there, hammering and whatever else you want to do. But so it's been neat to see how things have evolved and how the church has changed and grown, and it's just been really cool for us to be together, part doing that and everything. So today we want to talk about the youth. And Philip, we'll just kind of dive right into this. We want to explain to everybody what goes on with our youth, because a lot of people may not know, even our church members who are here regularly may not know exactly what goes on all the time. So kind of give us, like when the big youth meetings are, how those are set up, what happens in a typical youth meeting, and things of that nature.
Yeah, sure. We've got a lot of things going on. We've got a pretty active group, and we meet. Of course, they go to care group and they do the regular stuff that all of our church does on Sunday morning and involved in those things. But our big night is Wednesday night, and that has changed over the times. But essentially, our kind of setup on a Wednesday night, this is when we have the most of our students. They're coming out of school that day. We usually meet a little bit early. Doors kind of open at 5 o'clock. Our band kind of comes in and starts practicing, and some kids start hanging out and doing some of the things we've got upstairs. But after that, at 5:45, we start with feeding them a meal. And it's a really important thing that we do because a lot of our students are coming directly off ball fields or band practices and things like that, and gives them an opportunity to hang out and really get to know each other, because we always have a lot of visitors that come in, and it's a really safe place for them to kind of just be with people. And so we feed them. We got a group of folks that do that and provide for that for us each week. And so we're thankful for that. But from 5:45 to about 6:10, they kind of hang out. And then right at that time at 6:10, we get them all into our worship space, and we start with some sort of ridiculous game. A lot of those games are, we make up and we just do the silliest of stuff. We've got
so your word, and I've never heard anybody else use this word before. You're the only person I've ever heard use this word, Goofy Root.
They are.
I've never heard that word before, but that's what you.
I don't really know where it came from, but we play some Goofy Root games for sure. We've had donuts hanging from the ceiling, and we've had kids doing all kinds of stuff. But so we start out with some sort of game or a screen game for 5 or 10 minutes, and then we have a youth band. That's comprised of our youth students and a couple of our early 20s that kind of help us organize that. And
yeah,
and
that's been awesome that's, we've got that going over the last, I don't know, year and a half, 2 years.
And really what that does is it moves us from having a fun, crazy evening, playing our games and hanging out, to more of a worshipful attitude, recognizing where we are, what we're doing, and praising the Lord together. And so our kids sing and our band plays. And after they do that, I'll usually come up, and Wednesday nights are a little bit, it's more of a sermon. I'm developing a sermon throughout the week and getting ready to do that. And so one of the things I tell people that come and visit with us for the first time or want to do that is Wednesday nights are a better time to kind of check it out, and you can hide a little bit. Right. If you want to stay away and you don't want anybody to ask you anything, or you don't want, you can find you a place to kind of sit to yourself and kind of scope it out and figure it out. And a lot of our students have come on Wednesday nights a few times, and after about 3 or 4 weeks, they feel a little bit safer and a little bit more ingratiated to what we're doing. And but we're not going to ask you to do anything. Nobody's going to ask you to pray out loud. There's not going to be any weirdness on a Wednesday night. We're just having a good time together, but we teach directly from God's word there. And lately we've been going through whole books of the Bible. We just recently finished 1 Thessalonians, and I think that's a really cool thing that our kids, if they came over the course of 2 or 3 months, they studied just together with us a whole book of the Bible, and so they can know that and know that they're capable of it. So it's a cool thing.
Big deal. Yeah, that's good.
So that's what we got going on Wednesday nights. A lot of kids hang out afterwards just because they like being together. And then on Sunday evenings, we meet at 5 o'clock. And this is where I really think the big stuff happens in our youth group. We have a little bit of a smaller number. Wednesday nights we may have 60, 70 kids. And on Sunday nights, usually it's about 30. Mm-hmm. But those students are the ones that I know are locked in, willing and ready to learn. And kind of my big motto on Sunday nights is we're going to ask you to do hard things. And that's a deal that I don't think people do enough. We don't challenge kids enough. We don't expect enough out of them. And so we challenge kids to work through the scriptures themselves. We teach them how to pray through the scriptures. We ask our questions and discuss those things, and it's a little bit more interactive. So that's why I say Wednesday nights are your safer bet if you're just trying to figure it out. Sunday nights we're learning together, and they're taking ownership of that. And sometimes I'm asking them to teach parts of it so that they have to be prepared and have to be brave enough to say these things out loud, because if they're not brave enough to do it in this safe place in our youth group, they're not going to be brave enough to do it out there in the world the way that Jesus asks us to. Mm-hmm. And so we do things. Sometimes we work things out on paper. Sometimes we, but we just study more intimately. Right. And we ask the students to do more of that themselves. Of course, I facilitate those things, or we have small group leaders that maybe do that, and we'll split up. But we just ask more of them on Sunday nights, and they're stepping up to the challenge, and we've got kids that are growing in the Lord, and it's a cool thing to see. Yeah,
that's awesome. So when you were hired 4 years ago, talk a little bit about how you've seen the growth of our youth.
Sure.
From numerically, spiritually, all aspects of it.
Yeah. So when we got here, I'm going to be real honest with you. There was that first summer, we had about 6 regular students, and the church really that was a step of faith to hire a full-time youth pastor, knowing
that's right. Mm-hmm.
that you've got about 6 kids. And there were some students that were going to come up over these next few years, and we had no idea about the numerical growth of the church, what was going to happen, but they invested in me, and it's not me, it could have been anybody, but they knew that this was something that God was leading them towards. So they took a step in faith and paid a full-time youth pastor, even though that it looked like that. And that first summer, there were 2 different Sunday nights where I prepared a full lesson and no one showed up.
Right. Yeah.
And, but God continued to bless in that, and we continued to be faithful in it. And over time, that continued to grow over the first year or so. When we moved upstairs, that was a big moment. So we, started growing from 6 or 8 kids to 16 or 18. And by the time we got upstairs, we had 25 or 30 kids, and God's continued to add to that as he continues to add to our church as a whole. And one of the things about that growth that I've always tried to be careful of, and I want to make sure this is always known because it's a big goal of our youth ministry, we don't want to be a separate entity of the church, because our students, there's a big break in from kids that graduate high school to the time that they're 25 where they leave the church, and some of them don't ever come back.
Right.
Some of them do cycle back as they have children and such. But when they do, we don't want that to happen. We want them to know that Glory is their church, or wherever, if they move off, that church is a all of your life thing. And we don't want to separate ourselves so much that it's just the churches, the youth is a church into itself.
Mm-hmm.
And so we do things downstairs sometimes. We have these Wednesday night takeovers with our adults. We do that flipped where Adam will teach our students. We try to bring things together as often as possible. And we've built our sub-25 class that Cliff Bell and I teach
Right.
on Sunday mornings, so that our students have a place naturally to move into after youth, because we want them to know that the church is for all of their life. So anyway, we've pushed towards that to be able to do that, and that growth has continued to happen. And as we've gotten more and more students, there's been more and more of our students who are serious about it, and they kind of feed off each other.
Mm-hmm.
They're growing in their faith because they know that there are other people in the room that really want to live for Jesus. They really want to serve him in a way that's real and beautiful, and in a way that, you know, a lot of people they see don't do it.
Right.
And so they're challenging each other to dig deeper in their faith and to grow and to know more and more about that. So
Yeah, that's great. You know, we had Michelle Howell, who is our children's director. We had that podcast broadcast last week, and that was one of the things that we talked about, this kind of building process of, you know, even our children that are in Glory Kids at a young age, you know, we want them to feel like this is my church. It's not just mom and dad's church, right, or whoever. This is my church as well. And that process starts there and goes all the way up through the youth. But in talking about that process, talk for just a second about the transition from what we would call Glory Kids, which ends in the 6th grade,
sure,
into youth, which begins that
right,
summer going into their 7th grade.
Well, when you
year.
get to be about 6th grade, you decide, I want to be a teenager. You know,
Right,
like I want to be with the big people.
Yeah.
And so when our kids get in 6th grade, they'll start asking me, hey, can I do this? Can I go ahead and do this? Can I go ahead and do that? Well, no, we've got a time period for that. You know, like it's not how we do it. But so our transition is in the middle of summer when we go to MFuge, our summer camp, when we put our kids on mission and go to camp. That's their first experience with our youth students.
Mm-hmm.
And when they go to camp, you know, you spend a whole week with everybody, you kind of immediately makes you part of it, you know,
Right.
where all of our other students get to know them and learn to love them and appreciate them. And they kind of figure it out how it goes. And so it's a big moment. So we try to encourage all of our 6th graders coming up into 7th grade during that summer to go to MFuge with us so that they can feel a part. And so that's the transition we make there. And then after that point, they're all in everything we do. And so that's how we do that.
Good. In closing, a couple things here, and then we'll close on this. First of all, your wife, Megan, is very, very important in all of this and plays a huge role. So it's not just you.
Hey, there is
even
no
though
doubt
you're the
about
youth
it.
pastor, but we love Megan, and you know, she serves in a variety of ways. So I want you to talk about her, and then I want to finish up with one thing that's very important is keeping our youth active. It's an active youth ministry, and talk a little bit about the events and the things that
Sure.
go on throughout that you plan throughout the year.
Okay.
And all.
Well, first of all, my wife, I don't understand how there are people in youth ministry and people in ministry positions overall that their wives are not a big part of it, and I've seen that, and usually don't work out very well.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine having a more supportive wife or a wife that's more involved, that cares more about it, that cares more about our kids, that our girls can go to directly, and sometimes our guys, you know. But
Yep.
she's such a tremendous resource to me and a gift to me and a gift to our students that I don't know how to communicate that adequately, because I could not do this thing without her.
Right.
I know I have the time and the resources to build things, to get ready, but I couldn't do it without her.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, we're thankful for her. And as far as things that we have going on and being active, you know, recently we've gone to a a woman who was recently widowed in our church, and served with her on a Sunday night. So we find service opportunities to bless other people the way that God's called us to. And we do things throughout the year. About once a month, we'll do something fun together, but sometimes those are built with a spiritual meaning. And one of those things that's coming up is D-Now, Disciple Now weekend, April 28th through the 30th. And it'll be the first time that our church has done that, where we'll bring in some college small group leaders and a speaker and a band for the weekend. We'll have some worship services. We'll have some small groups, and in between, we'll do a little mission project in the middle on Saturday. But our students will stay the night at that's another way we bring our whole church together and recognize that we're a church. They're going to stay the night at a lot of our church members' homes in their gender-specific age groups, and just be together all weekend. And so it's going to be a beautiful time. Really looking forward to kicking off our first D-Now. And then this summer, we'll, as soon as the summer starts, every Sunday night, we build an activity to go along with whatever our teaching is. And so every Sunday night, there's something that we're going to do in addition to Infuse and those other things. So we're real active in the summer when our students are off. And so I'm looking forward to those times. And so, yeah, that's kind of it. There's, as the things go along, I'm sure I'll be back on the podcast, and we'll update you about things that are happening. But, as always, Randy and I talk about, we have our senior pastor, Adam, who we love and appreciate, and does a tremendous job. But we want everybody out there to know that even though I'm the youth guy, Randy's the worship guy and families guy, we're your pastors too. So if you ever need anything, holler at us.
Yeah. Well, Philip, thank you for sharing that today. And we thank you all for listening and watching. You can catch us on our Glory Fellowship Facebook page and subscribe to Glory Fellowship on YouTube as well. And we'll be back with you another time. You'll be seeing podcasts again with Adam, kind of recapping his sermons, and then with other folks from Glory Fellowship talking about different ministries. So again, thanks for being with us, and that's what's happening at Glory.